On the afternoon of August 27, 2010, a Digg employee named Jen Burton posted a short notice to the company blog. 2 days earlier, Digg had switched off its entire website and replaced it with a rebuilt version the engineers called version 4. Her notice announced something no healthy website ever needs. Digg was opening a known issues page, a public running list of everything that was currently broken. Alongside that announcement, she offered a line of reassurance. Usage was great, she wrote, better than expected. Beneath the post, Digg's own comment system was doing what it had done since 2004. It sorted the replies by how many people had voted for each one. The replies sitting at the top had collected 639 votes, and it read, "No issue, the website now sucks." Lower down, a user named Fatty Corpuscle had pasted the Digg front page as a plain list of web addresses. Mashable appeared 6 times, Wired appeared twice, and Engadget appeared twice. Almost every remaining slot belonged to a professional publisher. One thing was missing from every story on that page. Since its earliest days, Digg had given every reader a small button marked Bury, a way to vote a story down and push it off the front page. Version 4 had deleted that button. Readers could still say yes to a story. Saying no was no longer possible. Digg was a website where the readers chose the news. That sentence sounds unremarkable now. In 2004, it was close to heresy. Every news destination on the web was arranged by somebody in an office, and a front page was an editorial product, assembled by people who decided what mattered and in what order. Yahoo employed editors. CNN employed editors. Even Slashdot, the technology site that had already handed comment moderation to its readers, kept a small group of humans deciding which submissions ran at the top. Kevin Rose, who was then a presenter on the cable technology channel Tech TV, wanted to find out what those editors were missing. His question was narrow and testable. Were there stories the professionals overlooked that a large enough crowd would find and push to the surface on its own? The mechanism he built was simple enough to describe in one breath. A registered user submitted a link with a headline and a 2-line summary. That submission landed in a section called Upcoming, which was the raw, unfiltered feed of everything anybody had posted. Other users read Upcoming and voted. A vote in favor was called a dig. Voting against was called a bury. When a story gathered enough digs quickly enough, an algorithm promoted it to the front page, and at that moment, it was in front of the entire internet. No editor sat anywhere in that chain. The button that carried those votes was drawn by Digg's creative director, Daniel Burka. He settled on a small yellow thumb pointing upward with a running count beside it, and Rose later said they had never seen anything quite like it before. Almost nothing on the web then lets you register approval of a single item with one click and see the total. The upward arrow on Reddit, the like button on Facebook, the small heart on every application on a modern phone. All of them are descendants of that yellow thumb. Promotion also had a physical consequence. A modest personal blog that reached the top would take a surge of readers heavy enough to knock its server offline within minutes. A phenomenon readers named the Digg effect. For a period in the middle of that decade, a small website going dark was treated as proof that it had arrived. Digg began in November 2004 as an experiment between 4 people: Kevin Rose, Owen Byrne, Ron Gore-Odetsky, and J.A.D. Elson. It opened to the public on December 5, 2004. Dan Reese designed the original pages, which carried no advertising at all. Look at a capture of the site from March 2005 and the modesty of it is striking. A line across the top reads, "Help promote stories to the homepage. Dig here." Stories concern satellite radio pricing, skins for the iPod Shuffle, and a power supply calculator, and the most popular item on the page that day carried 82 digs. A.D. Elson took over as chief executive in February 2005, bringing a different kind of experience to the room. He had co-founded EK Winix in June 1998 and had built physical data centers, so he understood what happens when demand arrives faster than machines can serve it. Growth arrived quickly, and June 26, 2006 was the day it became undeniable. Digg replaced its technology-only site with version 3, which opened the format to politics, business, gossip, and video. Businessweek had a reporter inside the office that morning. Rose arrived at the company's rooms above a local newspaper in Potrayar, Hill, at 4:45 in the morning, and engineers waited with contingency plans and spare servers. By 4 in the afternoon, the site had registered more than 13,000 new users, 8 times a normal day, and traffic was running at 4 times the previous Monday. Within weeks, Digg was the 24th most visited website in the United States according to Alexa, sitting a few places behind the New York Times at 19 and far ahead of Fox News at 62. More than 1 million people were using it every day in 2006, reading, submitting, and voting on something like 4,000 stories. 94% of that audience was male, and over half worked in information technology and earned $75,000 a year or more, which made it one of the most commercially desirable audiences on the web. Revenue had barely started. Digg was roughly breaking even on an estimated $3 million a year in 2006, selling a thin band of advertising through Federated Media. Valuation talk ran far ahead of that. People in the industry told Businessweek the company was easily worth $200 million, and a rumored $40 million offer from Yahoo had already surfaced and been denied in January of that year. Competition turned personal. AOL relaunched Netscape as a direct copy under Jason Kala Cohen his, and on July 18, 2006, it offered Digg's 50 most active contributors $1,000 a month each to move across. That offer is worth pausing on because it reveals something about Digg that would eventually matter more than anything else. A site with 1 million daily readers had a front page that could be meaningfully influenced by approaching 50 individuals. Businessweek put Rose on the cover of its August 14, 2006 issue under the cover line, "How This Kid Made $60 million in 18 months." That figure was a projection rather than a bank balance, and the article said so plainly. At 29, Rose was on his way either to $60 million or to complete failure. The photograph proved more durable than the headline. Rose was posed for 3.5 hours, given headphones and told to give a thumbs up, then asked the magazine not to run the picture. It ran anyway. By 2008, Digg was infrastructure. A survey by Compete.com put more than 236 million visits a year through its homepage. Publishers had rebuilt their pages around it, embedding the Digg button beside their articles because a promoted story could deliver more readers in an hour than a week of ordinary search traffic. The money followed the traffic. Digg raised about $45 million in venture capital across its life and was valued above $160 million in 2008. In July of that year, the company entered advanced talks to sell itself to Google for a reported $200 million, and the deal collapsed before it closed. Why it collapsed has never been established in public, and the participants have said little. A.D. Elson told the community in January 2009 that Digg had more than 35 million community members. 15 months later, announcing his departure in April 2010, he opened with a phrase that has been quoted ever since. After 5 years, 40 million users. Audience figures need more care because the firms measuring Digg were measuring different things. Compete counted visits. Quantcast counted United States traffic and produced smaller numbers. Comscore counted worldwide unique visitors. And that series is the useful one because the same method was applied before and after the collapse. It has a clear high point. In January 2010, Comscore counted 29.1 million unique visitors worldwide in a single month. The simple story of Digg is that one bad redesign killed it overnight. That story is popular because it is clean, and it is roughly a third true. Start with the number. Against 29.1 million worldwide unique visitors in January 2010, Comscore recorded 18.4 million in August 2010, the last full month before version 4 launched. Digg had shed more than a third of its worldwide audience in 7 months, while the old site was still running as it always had. Whatever was killing Digg had started well before anybody clicked deploy. 3 forces were already at work. The first was the power user problem, as old as the site's success. Attempts to game the front page were documented as early as 2006. when a leading contributor was banned after agreeing to promote a story for cash in an undercover operation run by Digg itself. A market formed around the weakness. TechCrunch reported one top user charging $700 a story, with a $500 bonus if it reached the front page. Digg hired the computer scientist Anton Kast to build what it called a diversity algorithm, specifically to stop small groups dominating promotion. Executives stripped some extra weight from super users at a town hall meeting and refused to make berries transparent. Then, in August 2010, weeks before version 4, a blogger named Ole Olsen published evidence that a mailing list called Digg Patriots had spent roughly a year organizing coordinated burials of articles it considered liberal out of the upcoming section before ordinary readers ever saw them. Digg's democracy had a turnout problem and an organized minority problem at the same time. Second was a structural shift Digg did not cause and could not stop. Facebook released its like button for external websites in April 2010, and within months, publishers were placing it directly beside the Digg button on the same articles. Twitter was absorbing the same behavior. Sharing a link stopped being something you did on a destination site and became something you did wherever you already were, which quietly unbundled Digg's core function. Third was Reddit, which had launched in June 2005 and been bought by Condé Nast in October 2006 for a reported $10 to $20 million. Reddit grew slowly and without drama for 5 years, kept its early users, and made almost no sudden changes. Against that background, version 4 was less a single mistake than 3 simultaneous ones. Digg changed its infrastructure, its product, and its business model in one release. The database moved from MySQL to Cassandra, a distributed system. And Adelson described the result in a magazine interview by saying that every single thing had changed and the entire website had been rewritten. Product changes went to the heart of the machine. Version 4 removed the bury button, favorites, friends submissions, the upcoming pages, subcategories, videos, and history search. Bury was replaced by a control called hide, and the difference between them is the whole story in miniature. A bury was a public act that pushed a story down for everyone. Hiding was private, removing a story from your own view and leaving it untouched for everybody else. Digg had converted a communal veto into a personal blindfold, then reported the switch as a success because people were using hide more often than they had used bury. Deleting upcoming mattered just as much and drew less comment. Upcoming was the room where the crowd actually worked. Ordinary readers went there to sift raw submissions, argue about them, and decide together what deserved promotion. Remove that room and the community has nowhere to be a community. Only a finished page handed down to it. Then came the business change. Publisher accounts were given the ability to submit their own articles automatically through an RSS feed with no human submitting anything. Set that beside the deletion of bury and the asymmetry is stark. Publishers received an automatic, unlimited yes. Readers lost their only no. Digg's users read that combination as a transfer of ownership, and they were reading it correctly. Kevin Rose published the launch announcement at 12:35 in the afternoon on August 25, 2010. He described speed, personalization, and easier sharing with friends. And he said the site people knew and loved now lived in a section called Top News. The tone was of a product update. Readers received it as an eviction. Almost nothing worked. Pages failed to load. Stories duplicated themselves. The help section was unreachable. And the highest voted comments, under Rose's own announcement, complained about missing dates, missing upcoming, spam, that could no longer be dug down, and a design one reader predicted would drive many people away. 2 days later, Digg opened its known issues pages. Organized retaliation arrived on August 30th, 2010, and its elegance is still remarkable. Users declared a Quit Digg Day and then used version 4's own publisher auto-submission feature against it. Reddit had a publisher account on Digg, so its RSS feed was pumping Reddit links onto Digg automatically. Digg's remaining users voted those links up en masse until the front page of Digg consisted largely of links to Reddit. Reddit answered by adding a shovel to its own logo to welcome the arrivals. Rose announced a new chief executive the following day, August 31st, 2010. Matt Williams, who had spent 11 years at Amazon, was taking over the business after what Rose called a search of several months. Williams therefore inherited version 4 6 days after it shipped. The decision itself belonged to Rose, who had been interim chief executive since A.D. Elson stepped down on April 4, 2010. September 2010 produced the numbers. Comscore counted 12.8 million worldwide unique visitors, down from 18.4 million in August, a loss of 5.6 million people in 30 days. Page views told a harsher story, falling from 155 million in August to 46 million in September, a decline of 70%. Traffic had not merely dropped, the people still arriving were barely reading anything. Retreat began immediately and never quite caught up. Williams promised on October 12, 2010 to restore many of the deleted features. On October 25, 2010, he cut 37% of the staff, taking the company from 67 people to 42, on revenue of roughly $15 million, and said the reduction was needed to reach profitability in 2011. Chief Revenue Officer Chas Edwards left the same day, and longtime Chief Financial Officer John Moffett also departed. The Berry button came back on November 3, 2010. 70 days had passed since its removal. Under the announcement, a 4-year user wrote that he had canceled his account the day after version 4 went live, had waited to see whether Digg would listen, and was now returning. That comment collected 82 votes. 639 had voted for the one calling the website broken. Publisher auto-submission was killed in February 2011, and the reason given indicts the whole strategy. Digg's product manager, Mike Chach-Ree, told partner publishers that only 4.5% of top news content was coming from automatically submitted feeds, and that the feature was heavily abused by spammers and discouraged real users from bothering to submit anything. The mechanism that had cost Digg its community was contributing almost nothing. Rose resigned from day-to-day operations on March 18, 2011. Reddit's traffic grew 230% during 2010, and by December 2011, Reddit had passed Digg for good. Dismantling happened in 3 pieces across 2012. On May 10, 2012, 15 Digg employees moved to Social Code, a unit of the Washington Post Company, in a deal reported at $12 million. The patent portfolio went to LinkedIn for approximately $4 million. On July 12, 2012, Betaworks took the Digg brand, the website, and the technology, and the Wall Street Journal reported the price as $500,000. That headline figure deserves a caveat. Matt Williams said publicly that the total consideration was significantly larger and included both cash and equity. And adding the 3 transactions together gives a figure near $16 million for a company that had turned down a reported $200 million 4 years earlier. Even the generous reading is a collapse of more than 90%. What Betaworks did next made the loss concrete. The new owners surveyed the remaining users, received 3,754 responses, and reported that 92% would not recommend Digg to a friend. Incremental improvement looked pointless to them. So they rebuilt the site from scratch in 6 weeks, and on July 31, 2012, they powered off the old Digg and pointed the address at the new one. Everything the community had made went dark that day. 8 years of submissions, comments, argument, user profiles, and front pages left the live web in a single switchover. The May 2007 front page, on which every visible story was the same HD DVD encryption key, and the running record of what a large public found interesting between 2004 and 2012, stopped being reachable. On August 30, 2012, Digg released a tool called the Digg Archive so individuals could download their own digs, submissions, saved articles, and comments. Each person got their fragment back. Nobody restored the whole. And what survives today survives mostly because the Internet Archive happened to be crawling. Set that against where this began. Digg was built in 2004 on the proposition that a small number of trusted people should stop deciding what the front page said. and that a crowd could do it better. 22 years later, the same brand, owned again by the same founder, decides the front page by watching 2,000 selected voices. The crowd has been quietly removed from its own invention. One object holds this story, and it is the Barry button. It was the crowd's only power to refuse, and it survived every controversy Digg endured. The encryption key revolt, the paid promotion scandals, the organized burial campaigns. Deletion came on August 25, 2010, and restoration on November 3, 2010, 70 days too late, to a site that had already lost 5.6 million people in a single month. Websites are not really destroyed by bad design. They are destroyed when the people who built the value stop believing the place belongs to them, and that belief usually turns on something small and mechanical. A control that disappears, a feed that fills with things nobody chose. Digg spent 5 years teaching millions of people that their vote moved the front page, and then it took away half of the vote. The audience understood the message immediately, and it was gone before the servers were fixed. If you want more of these, subscribe, and the next one will find you.